only shows the comments from YouTube.
Okay.
Bear with me 1 second. Mark will be joining us. He got sick on a cruise, unfortunately.
Ouch.
Yeah. Well, that's what he gets for going on a boat full of people.
Yeah.
Serves him right. On pop up. There it is. Oh, let me mute that. And there's the chats. Okay, we should be good.
All right.
I need to do one more thing. Because I have a terrible memory, so. How do I not follow you on Amazon yet? That has to be fixed right now. Oh. You'd think I'd be better prepared, and I apologize. I usually am.
Oh, you're good. I just got this set up like 2 minutes ago. So.
Okay. There we go. Oh, okay. All set. So, hello, and welcome to Horror Movies and Shit. I'm your host, Jim. Mark is out sick today. He got some sort of cold, baby cold on a cruise, so he couldn't bother to talk. Anyway, but with me today is author Z Martin. How are you, Z?
I'm good. I'm tired, but I'm good.
Yeah. So you were just you were just telling me you have a very interesting day job, other than being a famous author, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that in and of itself, I'm sure would be exhausting. I couldn't imagine. But we're here to talk about some of your books. Let's start with what have you always wanted to be a writer?
I wouldn't say I've always wanted to be one. I kind of started at the age of 15, dabbling with some poetry, and I had the idea at a young age, but I never thought to pursue it.
Okay. And
but
then
Reddit was that.
I was just gonna say then what kicked off the desire to start writing? Because you've done a lot between your anthologies and your solo books. You have 11 different titles. So
What really started was Reddit. I was on the No Sleep subreddit since I was about 20, 21 years old. And I started out writing some shorts for that subreddit. And I kind of let it die out. But then when I got back to around the age of 30, 29, I got back into it, started doing it. My wife encouraged me to really pursue it. And then I got invited to write for an anthology. And the anthology never took off. It never went anywhere. It just kind of died out. But that really showed me the indie publishing side of the world, and I just dove into it head first from there. Met a lot of amazing people that kind of helped me find my rhythm and get out into this world.
okay. And so, what is your favorite genre of story to write? Because you have a little bit of everything.
Horror is honestly my favorite, but I really do kind of enjoy the psychological or quiet horror subgenres because horror is such a massive category to cover.
For sure, absolutely. So, what was the first story that started it all? What inspired you to write your first story that you got published?
The first story that got published was a story called Coincidence or Causality, and that actually got onto the No Sleep special bonus short story thing they do, the flash fiction thing they do, and that was back in season 18 that got put into their little bonus episode. But that story was actually first published in the Join Me at the Campfire anthology, and it's only like 500 words max, but that story has inspired a lot of different stuff over the years. And I mean, this 5-year-old story at this point.
Yeah.
But that was the one that really set everything in motion.
Do you prefer long stories, or do you prefer writing the shorter stories?
I have honestly never been able to really write long form horror or long anything. I think the max I've ever gotten up to is about 25,000 words. And that
That's
was,
a lot of words.
yeah, but I mean, that's considered pretty short for most people. But that's just a novella for me. My longest short story at most was around 8,000.
Okay. I will say, so far, the my favorite thing that I've read of yours was Tales from the Chesterfield.
Yeah.
And I love the way that you sort of tied all the independent stories together. And a lot of them, and this is honestly a new favorite genre for me. Some of them even border on the bizarre and into bizarro fiction, and I love that. It's such an odd space to be in, because you either get just super uncomfortable or go, "What the fuck is going on right now?"
Yeah.
And that's sort of my vibe recently.
I didn't even know what Bizarro was until I met Jerry Blaze, who introduced me to the genre. And then I had already written most of Chesterfield at this point throughout the years, because a lot of these stories were collected over time.
Mm-hmm.
Once I read his, I went back and looked at some of the ones from Chesterfield, and I talked to him about, like, what would you consider this? Would you consider this in the realm of Bizarro? And he absolutely agreed that yes, these are bizarre stories. But listening and reading a lot of his works, that got me into the genre as well, because it's a fun genre to read and write in.
I mean, I couldn't speak to the writing part, but it definitely is fun to read. One of my favorite Bizarro books that really kicked me off was Fight Tub by William Paulson.
I've heard a lot about William Paulson.
So he's got this series of books called the Bedlam Bible series, and they all take place in the same apartment building. I did not like the last book in the series, which is Do Astronauts Dream or something like that. It was just a little too heavy, whereas the rest of what I read had a different sort of energy to them, and it was more fun and intense. Like Fight Tub's about a guy who just wakes up growing plumbing out of his body. And then he has to fight his giant, literally blob of a boss. It was absolutely insane, and I was laughing the whole time. But then you go into stuff like The Best of Bizarro, where a lot of it is more horror focused or body horror, and it's just a totally different vibe. And then you have stuff like Snap Crackle Fuck You, which is about a theme park full of genetically altered people to become cereal mascots from the 80s. So I mean, it's just the amount of things you can do just makes it a fun genre, in my opinion. But you and I talked after I read Tales from the Chesterfield, because you're involved in an anthology that'll be coming out shortly, hopefully before the end of next month, that we're putting together for charity, called Bizarre Splatter Patterns. And when I read you said you had never written Bizarro, and that's when I mentioned to you that I fully believe that Tales from the Chesterfield fits into that genre.
Yeah.
And it really does. But you have so many other books, right? I have not yet listened to The Price of Insanity. That's next on my list. I'm finishing up a series by D.M. Gay first.
Okay.
But that's next on my list. But tell me, what is your favorite story that you've written? What was the most fun to come up with?
That's hard. Honestly, probably my favorite was The Gateway, because it was a complete 180 compared to the rest of my horror. A lot of the horror at this point of my career was more of the subtle, quiet horror. Mm-hmm. It was kind of verging on that Goosebumps, not quite adult, but still kind of getting there. And then Gateway was a supernatural religious horror. Mm-hmm. And I put some gore into it. I put some strong situations into it.
You did indeed. You did
And
indeed.
a lot of people really liked it, but it also kind of bordered on that realm of dark fantasy. So it was a very interesting thing. This was originally supposed to just be a short story. It was supposed to be about 5,000 words, and I was going to be done with it. And then I started writing it, and I thought I was an absolute idiot for thinking that would ever be that short. And ended up around 20,000 words or something like that.
Yeah, I mean I that one's on Audible, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say I'm pretty sure I'd listen to the audiobook because I've not had much time to read lately or sit down and hold a physical copy. But yeah, that one was a great story. But I still Tales from the Chesterfield is my favorite so far.
Oh yeah.
What? So who are some of your and what authors do you like to read?
So I grew up with King and I grew up with Poe. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, Poe is my favorite. I've always loved the short story format. So I've always leaned heavily against Poe and his works. Going into the independent world, though, I have taken a lot of interest in Gage Greenwood. Um, Clarence Carter, he is a lesser known indie author, but I really wish people would pick up his books and read them because he writes some really strong grief horror and he just pours emotion into everything.
Yeah.
Candace Nola, she is a force to be reckoned with, and just every story she puts out there is absolutely amazing. Who else? Oh man, um,
No
Kisto
pressure.
Healy. Yeah.
I love Kisto's books.
Oh
Love
yeah.
Kisto.
Kisto
Yeah.
always puts out some amazing stuff.
And
Jerry
he's such
Bla-
a great guy too.
oh yeah,
He
absolutely.
really is.
Jerry Blaze, he puts out some amazing stuff that just it gets in your head, and he's so versatile with everything he writes. I mean, you can read a 80s slasher, or you can read an absolute crazy story that you have no clue where it's going.
I'll have to check him out. I don't think I've picked up anything of his yet.
Oh, yeah. Donut Quest. If you like Bizarro, Donut Quest is the way to go.
Sounds good to me. I will put it on the list. So I have a question for you. You said Poe was a big inspiration. What's your favorite Poe story?
Honestly, we read The Telltale Heart, and I think The Telltale Heart and the Raven was what got me into it.
Mm-hmm.
But Murders in the Rue Morgue, that was the one that stuck with me the most.
Mine is a little bit different on a different level, and I don't know why, but in my senior English class, we had to pick any work we could from Poe, and I picked Hop Frog, and I have
Okay.
never forgotten that story. I think it is probably one of his best.
I have to go look it up. I've got all his works in one edition. I've got to go
Same.
look at that after this then.
So it's about this court jester that, well, I don't want to ruin it. It's about a court jester who's treated very poorly. That's all I'll say.
All right.
There's no surprises in the story. You know exactly what's going on, and that's why I think I loved it so much. And it's not very lyrical like some of his other work. It's very straightforward. It's just a simple story, and you understand all of the motivations. There's no mystical stuff. It's very, very grounded in reality, and I thought it was great.
All right.
So, what else do you have going on with your publishing? What else, other than Bizarre Splatter Patterns, what else do you have coming out for us?
So this year I am just dedicating it to anthologies. I had been focusing solely on my own works before this year, but I want to take a breather because I have an idea that I want to let marinate and sit for a while before I work on it because it's going to be a very long and very tedious process. But I've got Bizarre Splatter Patterns coming.
Yep.
One just released called The Stranger at My Window. It's all about living your first time living alone. And it's an anthology with a whole bunch of different people. Don Coclacier put it out. It's got me, Bruno Maraca,
Who is
Laura.
also in Bizarre Splatter Patterns.
Yep. Laura Bilodeau,
Love
Cassandra O'Sullivan Sakar is in it. There's so many more people. It's a massive one that's coming out.
That's awesome.
I've got one. I can't talk too much about it because it's not being put out yet, but it's a spin-off of a 80s and 90s kids show that everyone loved and everyone will remember, about some cuddly bears. And it's splatter, it's gore, it's dark.
It's the Gummy Bears, isn't it?
No.
I know exactly where you're going with this, but
Oh.
I just had to throw it out there. Nobody
It's
remembers the
gonna
Gummy
be nice.
Bears.
No. It's going to be nice, though, when it comes out. Everyone is going to love this one because it's just sick and, oh, it's
That's
nice.
awesome.
Then, what else? I have another one coming out. Another one. It's kind of the new economy that everyone's kind of going to, like Uber drivers and DoorDash and stuff like that. It's horror stories related to that. I don't really know when it's going to be released yet, but the story's already out there. It's already been submitted and
nice.
accepted. So that one's coming out later this year, I believe. And then I've got 2 other anthologies. No, 3 other anthologies.
Busy man.
Yeah, I've just been sinking into these things and trying to get them out. There's a potluck anthology that will be coming out in October.
Am I correct in assuming that's food horror?
It's not all going to be food related horror, but food is going to be the general theme, kind of all around. I went a psychological route just because that's my favorite route to go.
Sure.
Then there is a men's mental health anthology that's coming out called Suck It Up, Buttercup. This one's going to be tough for a lot of people.
That sounds amazing, though, because you don't see that a whole lot.
Yeah, when I was approached with the idea of it, I was all for it. I wanted to go into it and really dig deep into some stuff.
Can I ask you about that then? Is the anthology all stories based on men's mental health issues, or is it like a charity anthology that's going to that sort of support?
It is both of those things.
Oh, okay. That's amazing.
Yep. We all kind of workshop together real quick about who was going to take kind of what main topics. We got some special stories that are going to be there, and it is all going to a charity for men's mental health. It's going to be a special con release, so it's only going to be available at that conference until a certain time.
Okay. That is amazing, and when you can share the details, I'd love the name of the book because I will order that for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll as soon as she gives me the go ahead, I'll send that to you.
Can't wait. That's awesome. So is it just horror stories, or are you into horror movies too?
I'm into horror movies as well. I don't watch as many as I used to because I get stuck in the YouTube rut.
Yeah.
But I love showing my wife some very horrifying things because she was not raised with horror movies.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I have a movie. I have a movie recommendation if you haven't traumatized her with it yet. Have you seen the horror comedy Dead Alive?
No, I have not.
It is a Peter Jackson movie that takes place in New Zealand. It is over the top, bloody, gory, ridiculous, and I loved it. There is a preacher in it that has probably one of the best one-liners I've ever heard a preacher say in a movie, where he comes out fighting kung fu and says, "I kick ass for the Lord." It's just absolutely great. And there's a killer lawnmower scene.
Okay.
I cannot tell you enough. Your wife will probably vomit if she's not into horror. It's very gross. This
is her.
Yeah, it's gross. There's a custard scene with like festering boils and stuff. Oh, it's delicious. A woman swallows a German Shepherd.
Okay.
And so much more. Like, that's just the icing on the cake. Wait till you see the final act. But if you want some, it used to be a litmus test for friends. I would put it on whenever I had anybody over to my house, and if they could sit through it, we would hang out. But if they couldn't, it's just not going to work. Sorry, it's you, it's not me.
All right.
Anyway, so tell me some of your favorites.
Oh man. So I kind of got introduced into it with the Nightmare on Elm Street. That was just the one that got me into everything. And anytime I'd go stay over at a friend's house, we would watch different ones. We watched Chucky, Bride of Chucky got me into this whole movie watching thing.
Yep.
I would say I am a huge fan of found footage. I don't know why, but that is the genre that always gets me. I love the original VHS. I really love Grave Encounters, and I just introduced her to that.
Oh, nice.
I think 2 weeks ago, and she watched it through her parted fingers because that's just how she loves to watch it. Pinata Survival Island. It was a weird one from forever ago, but it's interesting.
That's a new one on me. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I think it was early 2000s, late 90s maybe.
Okay.
It was a B-rated, but it was a really good, interesting story.
So if you haven't seen it, a movie that is actually very enjoyable, because I personally do not like found footage most of the time, but this one I actually really liked, is Frogman.
Frogman.
And if you really want to see something that is found footage that goes balls to the wall for about 20 minutes, no holds barred, Reel, Reel.
I believe I've watched that one.
That and its sequel are flipping insane. I mean, you can't get more brutal than the last 20 minutes of that film.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to write that one down and check that one out.
It's on, I think it's realstore.net is the site. It's the only way you can watch it. And then you have to buy Reel 2, and they're working on Reel 3 now.
Okay, yeah, I'll check that out.
I love indie horror. Absolutely love it. And I do understand that it found footage allows for a lot more of a low budget type production. Mm-hmm. But you know, I have films. There was a local screening. I went and saw a movie called I Possessed, which is now on Roku and Amazon Prime, I believe, and maybe Fandango. I don't remember the third service. Was made locally where I live, just south of where I live, and really turned out to be a really enjoyable experience. I was very surprised. We don't often get screenings in my area, and they brought them up to a local theater here by my mother, and I took her. And I'm like, Mom, it's independent, so it's either going to be okay or it's going to really suck. And we both wound up really enjoying it. So definitely something you should check out, especially if you like psychological horror. It's something for sure. I don't want to ruin it. That's why I don't want to give away too much. We did have the writer and director and one of the star, and actually he stars in the film also, and another one of his co-stars on the podcast right after the viewing, and it was great. They did a 26 city tour. They did not do any festival circuits, so it's pretty amazing that they got distribution the way they did.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I'm trying to think of some other independent films. Oh, you like Trippy, right?
Oh yeah.
8 Eyes. If you have not seen it yet, it is a psychedelic nod. Well, I don't know about nod. Homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
It's a thing. It's actually pretty great. I absolutely love that film. What else have we seen lately? I think if you like horror comedies, there's always Gorefers. That was done by my buddy Devin Omen. That is great. What else? I'm trying to think of some of the independent films that I've seen that I really, really loved. We just watched a movie called 12 Feet, which is about 2 girls that get stuck under a pool cover. What a piece of garbage. Oh my God. I have never been so bored in a movie in all my life. They tried to throw in drug addiction and, I don't know, father burned himself alive, smoking and falling asleep with a cigarette in front of his daughter. And then somehow they hate each other and one sister doesn't know the other sister's diabetic. I don't know. It was so much going on. And then the maintenance lady wants to kill them and steal all their money, so she won't let him out. I don't know. It was just stupid. It was so stupid. But anyway, so I do not recommend that one. But give me some recommendations. What do you got?
Oh, man. I'm trying to think of it. There was something I was watching on Netflix. It was a Tales from something. It was like a short. They were each individual short little tales.
Yep.
I cannot think of it for the life of me though. They were more geared. Some of them were geared more towards the younger age stuff, but they still had some really solid scare to them. But there was another one on Netflix.
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark?
No. It was
Okay.
It was something else.
They did like 2-sentence horror story shorts too, but I don't know if that was on Netflix or not.
That was one of them I watched. I don't think it was on Netflix. I think it was on Hulu. But it was like a 2-sentence horror story. It was real short clips, but they actually delivered on quite a few of them.
You mentioning that gives me another recommendation for you and your wife. Hulu has a movie called Grim Cuddy.
Yep.
Have you seen it?
I've watched bits and pieces of it, but I haven't actually watched the whole thing yet.
I really like that movie because it's a movie about paranoia.
Okay.
If you watch the whole thing, I'm not going to ruin it, but essentially, if people would just calm the hell down, none of the movie would happen.
Okay.
That's exactly what the point of the movie is. If people would just calm down, this shit wouldn't have happened.
Okay.
So, and it's not too much. So, like, your wife might get creeped out, but she's not gonna, totally freak out. It's very PG-13 almost.
Okay.
So, definitely something to watch. Oh, you know what? Hagasusa. Do you like foreign horror?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It kind of depends on the lip sync dynamic of it.
So this one was not dubbed, at least not the version I watched. I watched the subtitled version. Probably the most uncomfortable I've been ever.
Okay.
Through the entire movie, because you follow this woman, and I'm sorry I don't remember her name because there's not much speaking in the film, and the torture that people put her through, essentially. Like the horrible things they do to her and what it leads to. And it's actually quite a profound film, in my opinion.
Okay, I have to check that one out.
That one was really good. Hey, Kai, how are you? Kylie's here, and Bruno's watching also.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of any other films that I've seen recently. I get into this nostalgia kick where I just watch movies that made me feel good as a kid, like Ghoulies and Troll and that sort of stuff. Like I just bought the complete series of Tales from the Dark Side and Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, okay.
So I will be binge watching those for probably the next month.
So I actually found the first season of Creepshow the other day.
Oh, did you?
Sale. Yeah, I grabbed that in a heartbeat.
I bet. That is one thing that they did really well. That series did a great job tying into the whole vibe of the original movie. Like they did a fantastic job, and I love that Adrienne Barbeau. I think she's in the first 2 seasons.
I believe so.
It's 2 or 3, I don't remember, but it was great seeing her on screen too. We are doing good, Kylie. We're just talking about we were talking about Z Martin's books, what he's got coming up, and now we're just going over some horror movies that we both love. How are you today? I love Kylie. She's awesome. She's one of the admins for Splatter Chatter.
Yep.
Which is a great. I have been really absent on social media because of work. I was in this huge project. The project is now live. Things will start calming down in the next couple weeks, so I will be able to get back into. I don't think I've posted one of these episodes of the podcast onto Spotify now for probably a month. It's just the live recordings on YouTube, but I will get back into it because I need to participate more. I miss doing it. It's fun. So what about you? What let's get to know you a little bit. What do you do outside of reading and work?
Well, I'm a father of 3. I'm married, obviously.
Enough said. That takes up a lot of time.
Yeah, it does. When I'm not, writing or working or hanging out with the family, I do like to play video games. Me and my wife play a lot of co-op survival games. We just kind of get lost in that world. I do a lot of woodworking. I don't do as much now, just because it takes a lot of money to do woodworking unless you just got a stockpile of it.
Right.
but I just kind of do a little bit of everything, honestly.
Nice. So Kylie just said some of us just finished The Price of Insanity.
Yep, I've got to hear from her and Veronica and I think Bambi, and I believe there's one other. I can't remember who else
I
was
love
talking
those three
about it.
ladies. They're awesome.
Oh yeah.
She said it was awesome. So I'm looking forward to it. As soon as I finish my this last book in the series that I'm reading by DM Gay, I will be picking that up.
I think you really like the narrator. It's hard to pick an audio narrator
Yeah, I bet.
through ACX, but Ryan auditioned and his voice just it fit every single thing I needed for that one.
That's awesome. How hard is it? Well, you just said it's very hard, but like when you do go for an audio narrator, do you already have a voice in mind or the types of character voices in mind that you want? Like, how do you judge an audition?
Somewhat, I do have characters kind of already planned out in my head because I luckily have a very vivid imagination when it comes to this, and I will play out their voices. Sometimes I'll listen to every single audition, no matter who it is. If I've got like a male speaking part, I'll still listen to a female audition.
Yeah,
because you never know what they'll bring to the table.
that's
And
very true.
there have been some people that I wanted, this certain person to do it, but then another narrator or audition is like, no, you got the part. You absolutely have the part.
Right?
But I'll listen to every single audition and I'll give them different parts of the story to see kind of how they'll react to different emotions or different characters. And it's just whoever fits in that moment just kind of gives me the goosebumps.
Is it harder to pick a narrator for your audiobook like Tales from the Chesterfield versus The Gateway, where you stick with one set of characters through the whole book?
Absolutely. So Cameron Del Grosso, who did The Gateway, I was kind of iffy at first because he just had this set voice, but once I actually gave him the characters and we talked a little bit back and forth, and he really got Astaroth down perfectly, it just everything worked. But then moving over to Chesterfield, where I have so many different voices, you can't just pick one person to do everything. But
Right.
David Winters blew me away because he just has such a different range and he has a lot of fun with the script. You can tell it just from him talking. And I loved him so much. I even let him do Elevator Game just because of how good he is with his different voices.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wonder because like, given that you generally, well, I shouldn't say generally, but most of your stories are independent because you're doing the shorter anthology or novelettes, or even novella. You don't have any series of books, right?
I do kind of, sort of.
Okay.
So only some of my books are independently published. The rest are published through indie press called Bainham Books Press, or it used to be Unveiling Nightmares.
They
But
reached out to me about you.
oh yeah. But originally, I actually have the book right here. So this is a fantasy work that I've written because most people don't know that about me. I'm actually big into fantasy as well, and that is the first of a 5 potential book. The
Oh, okay.
second one's already written. I've just sat on it for a little while because
Okay.
I want to really make sure I've got it all down the way I want it before it gets out into the world.
So this is sort of like your the Dark Tower series.
Yeah,
It's gonna be an epic fantasy series. It's not just one or two small or one or two ideas. You have a whole game plan for that series.
yeah.
That's awesome. So with that being said, by the way, hi Peachy. Peachy's watching now too. With that being said, would you or do you anticipate using the same narrator throughout the entire series?
Yeah, absolutely on that. A good friend of mine, Nathan Helm, he was one of the people that I originally met kind of at the beginning of this. He is a very good voice actor. He loves what he does, and he will work with you 100% on getting the voices down right. he did everything in the Journey of Ike. Every single character, he set the entire scene for everything. But we've already been in discussion because I've read his books, he reads my books. And on the second one, I've already given him that, and he's already started working on the voices.
Oh, okay. Any anticipated date to release the second one yet?
Not at the moment. It's currently out in submission for a publisher. If they don't pick it up, then it's going to end up just being self-published like the first one. And I'm hoping to get that out later in the year because that's typically when I like to publish my own personal books.
Okay. Nice. Kylie's saying the elevator game is her next read after she's done with her current read. So
I'm interested to see what she'll think about that one.
I will say I am a terrible ARC reader. So I never ARC read I tried getting into the whole ARC thing. I don't work well with deadlines, especially given some of the chaotic stuff that goes on with life in general. So I always just support after the book comes out.
Yeah. That is the one thing I like about doing ARCs is I never put a deadline on anybody.
Yeah.
If they say they'll read the book, I trust that eventually at some point they will read the book because I did the ARC reader thing also as an author. And it's hard getting these books out in some of the deadlines that they give you.
Yeah, absolutely. Zach Cass says, just two sexy guys chatting, I see. We love you too, Zach. Zach is awesome.
Yes, he is.
But anyway, so back into your books, which we already talked about the first one, but I was looking and I need you to give me some information about what sound does the whippoorwill make at night? Because I love that title.
So that was originally planned to just be an audio production.
Okay.
There was not going to be an ebook. There wasn't going to be anything about it. It was just going to be it was a script essentially.
Okay.
This producer reached out to me and my buddy Clarence, the one I spoke about earlier on, reached out to us 2 years ago, I believe. And they were making they had this whole platform where they just did audio performances of stories. And they said, hey, I just need a story between 3,000 and 5,000 words. And then we'll get it up there, start marketing it just like you would any other ebook.
Sure.
Well, got the story written, really, really loved it. And then kind of radio silence for a while. I asked Clarence about it. He couldn't really get anything out of them. Turns out about a year later, there were some issues with the website. Everything kind of fell apart. They reached back out and was like, hey, we made a whole new platform. We want to take the story in. At that point, I'd already submitted it to my publisher as just a short story to publish on its own. So unfortunately, it never got made into the audio that it was originally meant to be, but it did get made as an ebook, and I'm currently working on getting an Audible of it made up, probably by Ryan, but I really am looking for a female narrator to go tackle it. But if not, Ryan's probably going to be my next guest on that one.
So tell me about this story. What is the story about so that I don't ruin it for myself?
So it is like a good majority of my stories, it takes place in the forest, in a national park or a cabin kind of setting. I love forest stuff because if you could see outside my house, I live in the middle of the woods.
Good inspiration, huh?
Yeah. But you got two park rangers that are having to investigate disappearances because there is no animals in the park. And if you've been to any kind of woods, you know there's animals everywhere.
Right.
And I had this idea of just quietness. Everything around is just perfectly still, calm, and quiet. And that, if you know, is the worst time to be in the woods because if everything's quiet, something big is close by.
Right.
But what you hear is a whippoorwill calling at night. And whippoorwills are really annoying birds that just call and call and call. And it switches between the female park ranger and the male park ranger, and they kind of just trade off back and forth throughout the story. And you start finding out what's making the sound of the whippoorwill. It's not exactly a whippoorwill. And I leave it off to where a lot more can be done with the story. And I have been told by my wife that I am going to make this into a much longer story. So it may be a series at one point, but we're still kind of in the thought process on that one.
Is that available as a paperback from Amazon?
No, it's not. I was going to release it as a chapbook,
Okay.
just kind of a small little thing I could do at cons or just through my website. But with Amazon's pricing changes, I'm talking with the publisher about how we might be able to do that. But at this point, it's not available yet.
I'm gonna cry. I'm not a big ebook reader or e-reader. But I love physical and audio are my two favorites, and I need to get back into the physical because my TBR, I think I have 30 books sitting over here in the stack I have to read. It's awful. It is absolutely awful. Kylie says that you do great with cabin environments. Do cabins scare you, or do you just love them?
When I was a kid, I did a lot of exploring. I've lived on this land basically since I was about 11 years old. Okay. So a good 24 years of living in this environment. I've explored everything there is to explore over the next 40 acres, and I've done a lot of it at night as well. So I've seen that side of what the woods look like at nighttime.
Sure.
And it's not that it scares me, it's just I know what can be out there, and I know how terrifying it can be at the wrong moment.
Any Bigfoot encounters out in the woods?
Sadly, no. I wish.
It's okay, big guy. I love creature features. So Bigfoots, cryptids, you got me. I'm so excited. My buddy James Kane has a book coming out called The Devil in the Pines, which is about the Jersey Devil. I cannot wait for that.
Oh yeah, I'm ready for that one.
I love everything that man writes. I've not been disappointed by any story he's written so far. My favorite being Black Friday because I die gruesomely in that story. It was so much fun. Zach would like to know if you have any recently written shorts.
So, other than the one that Zach knows about, the latest one that is out and available to read is called Up in The Stranger at My Window. That is the last one that got published.
Okay.
Past that.
Well, why don't you tell them a little bit about your story that's coming out in Bizarre Splatter Patterns?
Yep.
I really like that one.
That one, it was so weird to write. And I had a lot of fun with it because it's that phrase was stuck in my head after you mentioned this anthology. That phrase just would not leave me alone. And I don't know why, but lights are meant to sparkle. And that is something just to keep in mind. Lights are meant to sparkle. So it was originally going to be for Stranger at My Window, but when you mentioned this anthology, I really felt like this would take a better bizarre path than it would just straight horror. Just it didn't fit right with that one. So this lady, she moves into an apartment for the first time in her life. It's her first time living away from her parents. She's, getting ready to go to school, do her job, do all these things that every teenager does whenever they first move out of their house. And she is sitting at home, eating her pizza, doing typical teenage things, when she gets a knock on her door and she hears a little kid asking her, "Do your lights sparkle?" Thinking it's just some random kid from the apartment complex, she kind of blows it off. Well, the kid doesn't leave it alone. He wants to know if her lights sparkle. He has to know, do her lights sparkle? And everything's kind of okay. She's getting a little creeped out. And then she sees the eyeball under the door looking at her and then retracting back.
Right.
And from there, it's basically just a fever dream of sparkling lights and why the lights are meant to sparkle.
I do hope that you continue that story, because I I think there's so much more to tell with it, because it's such, you did it in such a way that it's a little open ended,
Yeah.
and I'm excited about that. Like I really do hope you continue that story, because I would love to read more about it.
Oh yeah, I plan on revisiting a lot of these stories I've written because they can all be expanded and made into something so much more.
Yeah, there's definitely something, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it is it's got something. Like there's, you definitely want more of that story. You want to understand, at least I do. I want to understand the why and the who and the what exactly. There's some, I need more. Hopefully, if this is successful and turns into a regular thing, maybe you can make it a recurring theme.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We'll see. Zach says he's chomping at the bit for splatter patterns. Well, he said splatter patters, but I'm assuming he meant splatter patterns. Anyway, so then what do you have anything coming up? I don't mean personally, but movies, books that you're excited to be released, like from some of your favorite authors, or movies that you're looking forward to?
Ooh. I know Jennifer Osborne just put out a new one. I'm excited to read that because she always has some really good emotional emotional stories. I know Gage is coming out with a new one. I'm excited for. Trying to think of who else recently has something coming out. I haven't really arc read too much lately. Just life's been way too crazy.
Yeah.
No, MJ Mars. She just sent one over the other day, and I have yet to get to it, but I've got to get to it because it's so freaking good. And then Mike Innenbach. I don't know why the world has not picked up Mike Innenbach yet, but they need to, and they need to quick because I'm gonna butcher this word. Oyas Lycos is a short story collection, and Subject A, it is Mike's fever dream retelling of Alice in Wonderland from a present day standpoint, and he will just blow your mind. You will feel like you're on a trip the whole time you read him.
That a fever dream for
Yeah.
that could be interesting. That could be very, very interesting. Oh, Kylie said that she needs a longer version. Kukoid, is that?
Kukui.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's a. I actually didn't know it was called that until I wrote the story. I was looking up different lore and different things I could do off of this, and it was supposed to be for a competition. I ended up surpassing the word count by a little bit and said, "Forget it. I'm just going to use it on my own." But it's essentially the boogeyman in Hispanic culture.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Kukui would take disobedient kids and drag them back to his cave where he would punish them, make them eat nothing but tortillas and whip them. And once they learned how to behave, he would take them back to their parents.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's kind of
but
anticlimactic. I'm
but
kidding.
yeah, it has a psychological twist to it from
Right.
my own personal standpoint, and I made it a little interesting.
Interesting. I will have to look that one up. Kylie, does that satisfy? So, are you going to give her more?
I have honestly really thought about revisiting a lot of my earlier works from Stroll Down the Crooked Path and Price of Insanity because they were all my original stuff, but I do want to see those all expanded into something more. I have Tap and Blink have a whole book that I'm supposed to write for them at some point.
Okay. Interesting. So, is there any one story that you want to revisit more than the others? Like, is there anything that's calling out to you from your previous work?
Tap is the story that I just absolutely loved because it was so short and so open-ended, and the character in it just, I don't know what he is, and I wish I did. And I thought writing Blink, which is a continuation of Tap, would give me more closure on that. It did not. It only made it worse, and I still don't know what he is, but I want to figure it out.
Okay. That's interesting. So I guess that answers my question, because I was going to ask, do you let do you have a definitive character arc decided when you sit down to write a story? Or do you let the story develop the character?
The story completely does its own thing. I
Okay.
am just the person with the fingers and the keyboard.
Fair enough. Has to be frustrating at times though when you don't know what's next, right? Or is it more exciting?
Sometimes it is. Other times it's like, no, I want you to do this. I'm telling you you're going to do this. And it's like, no, we're not. We're doing this over here.
Fair enough. That's great. So what story that you've written or published so far? Oh, I'm sorry. Zach wants to go back to cryptids. He says you should do one on the Fresno Nightcrawler.
I will have to look that up because I don't write cryptids very often. Like, that is just not something I do, but I have a lot of fun with it when I do that.
Okay. Well, we already talked. You like the psychological stuff more than anything, but you mentioned grief horror earlier. Do you gravitate to grief horror? Like, I mean, as a reader.
As a reader, I don't tend to go that direction, but I will not skip up on a book that does that. Like Moribund, when Jennifer Osborne put that out, I was one of her ARC readers.
Okay.
And I didn't think I was going to like it because I really actually I like to be scared. I don't like to be sad.
Right.
But after reading that, I realized that, okay, I do kind of like to read that I'm sad and feel that I'm sad when reading it, but I want there to be some kind of horror mixture going into it as well.
You like to read fantasy also?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Are you a fan of Brahm?
Yes.
Okay, then you've probably already read Lost Gods.
I have not read Lost Gods. I started.
Oh man,
Slewfoot.
Slewfoot is amazing. I've honestly liked everything he's ever written. I don't understand how that man is so talented, and it's actually kind of disgusting because he paints, he does music, he writes, and it's just gross. He should leave some for the rest of us. Yeah. But Lost Gods was the first book I ever read by him, and it's utterly amazing.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out.
I think you should. I wouldn't say it's grief horror, but it does deal with loss, and there is some grief horror in it, but it's much more on the fantasy side than it is on the horror side. But it's great. You should really check it out.
All right.
So Zach, I'm sorry. I think we totally got sidetracked. We're gonna look up the Fresno Nightcrawler because I don't think either one of us knows what it is. I'm dying for somebody to do a swamp ape cryptid horror because nobody knows what a swamp ape is. Do you know what a swamp ape is, Z?
I have no clue. I'm writing these down so I can go look them up.
That is Florida's version of Bigfoot.
Okay.
And he lays in ditches waiting for people. Oh, Zach says, I do love grief horror or horror with grief themes, so it sounds like he needs to read that. There you go. Turn somebody on to Jennifer Osborne.
Yep.
That's awesome. So I'm so terrible at this. We should have done this at the beginning, but where can people follow you?
So I am pretty much available anywhere you go. I mainly focus on Facebook. I used to be really big into TikTok, and TikTok was kind of what got me my start. But I just socially got so drained by making all the videos that I gravitated towards Facebook. And once my Facebook following got as big as my TikTok following, I kind of just left TikTok alone. I still do go there every now and again, and I still do post a video here and there. But I am available everywhere as Z Martin or Z Martin Books. I try to make it as simple as possible because I forget my usernames and I forget my passwords.
Fair
And
enough.
yeah.
Now, do you have a website for signed copies?
I do have a website. It's down right now because I'm trying to work on some things. My indie author interviews that I do have gotten behind. I'm trying to catch up and update everything. But Z Martin Books, if you can't get on the website because I have it down doing stuff, I do have an Etsy where I sell everything. And this just soft released 2 days ago. IndieBookery.com is a new website that's getting up. It's just soft launch, so it hasn't completely got all the bugs worked out, but it is something that a fellow indie author, Tracy Nudd, designed, and she is getting it up and working to where we can all get our books out there and sell them without having to deal with all the fees and handling and all the other junk. But that's coming up. Other than that, I do have Etsy, or you can just message me. Honestly, I can figure it out from there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, what else do you want people to know about your work?
Whew. Buy my books.
I mean, that's fair. Everybody's it's all with indie publishing, or self-publishing. It's all about promotion, right?
Oh yeah.
I do not envy that hustle, which is why I love having authors on here, because even if books aren't for me, the amount of work that goes into being self-published or an indie author is absolutely astounding to me. So I think everybody deserves to be celebrated, whether you write books that are my taste or not. So that's why I love having people on.
And one thing, honestly, and it's not even just about my books in general, it's about every indie author out there. Never be afraid to message one of us if you found something in our books that you loved or you connected with. Please message us. And sometimes a lot of these messages that we get filtered into spam for whatever reason. If you realize that, hey, we didn't see your message in time, try us on a different platform or shoot a status out to us, honestly, because we like to know that you saw something in what we wrote. And we will talk to you 90% of the time about anything you want to.
You're not wrong. I actually, believe it or not, I read a book by an author and I did reach out and he was asking my opinion on the book. And I said, sorry, it just really wasn't for me. Yeah. It's not that it's bad. It's just, it's not my thing. The story's good. The characters are good, but it didn't do it for me. He has been probably one of the best people to chat with in general. Even though I gave him that feedback, because he's like, I really appreciate that because it's not meant for everybody. I understand it's for a niche audience, and that's okay. And even still, we support each other. He shares the podcast stuff. I share his books. Like it's great. I love that people, that especially all the indie authors that I've met so far, are so receptive to that feedback, good or bad.
Yeah,
I think it's amazing. What is your favorite part? Well, I shouldn't say what is your favorite part. Do you like? Well, I shouldn't say that either because that's going to sound really terrible if you say no. Your fan interaction, how has that been for you for the most part?
For the most part, it's pretty good. I've never really had any bad interaction with anybody. I've always either gotten positive feedback or I've got constructive criticism, which is always welcome. Always welcome. So I've never really had any bad interactions that I can think of.
Nice. You mentioned cons. What's your next con?
So I will not be attending any this year. We've had a lot of life stuff come up this year, and financially, where we are, it's hard to get to anywhere.
Sure.
We do plan on going to the Texas AuthorCon just to kind of pop in and talk to everybody, because I've gone the past 2 years. First year, I was just walking around, shaking hands, kissing babies, all that good stuff. And the second year, I was actually a vendor and got to meet and talk to everybody there. But this year we're just gonna visit and hang out with everybody for a little bit before we come back home because it's about 4 hours away from us.
I'm going to my first author con in September, so I'm excited.
You going to TBR?
Killer Pride.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
By Scares That Care. I met Joe and his crew at Mad Monster in Atlanta, and I found out about it, and I'm like, I got to be there. It's going to be a blast. I know several authors that are going to be there, so it's going to be great. If nothing, it'll be an experience. And I'm going with my buddy Karen, MK Oldman.
Yes, I love Karen.
I love her. She's awesome. So we're gonna hang out there for the weekend. Probably drink a little bit and make general asses out of ourselves. I can't wait.
It just authors can put them back. I'm just gonna pre-warn you.
I've heard stories from the other author cons that friends have told me about. I thought about doing Books and Brews. When is that? September?
I think so. I want to say August or September.
Yeah, whenever it is, because I have a buddy, Tim King is going to go, and I'm thinking about riding up there with him and his family, but I don't know yet because I got a lot going on between September and October, a lot of cons, so might be a little tight at that point.
Yeah.
So, well, Z, I do want to say thank you for hanging out. It's been great to chat, and I can't wait to have you back on. And I will leave that open ended. You're free to come on whenever you want. You just message me. We got space. Oh, September. It is September in Indiana. Thanks, okay. Zach. I appreciate that. But yeah, and anytime you are more than welcome to come back. Next time, if he doesn't get another man cold, Mark will be here.
All right.
Okay, but again, everybody, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And Zach, not Zach. I'm reading Facebook and talking to you. Z, again, anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome.
All right. I will definitely be back.